Hey, greetings. Michael DDA here. Thank you for joining me. I sound pretty repetitious. I say that every time. You know what? Thank you for joining me. And I'm Michael DDA. What else can I say? weareisrael.org is my website. We're going through Torah. We've been doing it this is the 118th edition of Torah. We've gone through Genesis, Exodus, and today we're doing Leviticus 8. Slow but sure, but each one of those 118 is a Sabbath. So we've gone through a couple years already. Today, we are in the 12th month of the first year that we came out of Egypt. Today, the priests, Aaron and his sons, he's got 4 of them right now, in 9 days, he's going to have 2 less. But for right now, he's got 4 sons. And they are going to be consecrated today. I said this was the 12th month. I think this is really important that we understand this. Let me, if you will, allow me to just show you, line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little and there a little. It was Yashar, once again, that helped me to understand where we are in this process that we're going through today. We'd seen it already. 12th month. What happened on the 12th month? We saw it at the end of Exodus. Chapter 40. Look at let's go there real quick. Here's Exodus chapter 40. Look what it says. On that, Yehovah spoke to Moses. On the first day of the first month, you shall set up the tabernacle of the tent of meetings. The Ohel Moed. That's what they're saying. Ohel Moed. Oh no, set up the tabernacle. Here they are. The tabernacle, the Mishkan, a tent of meeting, or a meeting tent, you could say. It's Ohel Moed, the tent of meeting, a meeting tent. Probably a meeting tent is really a better way to say that rather than there is no definite article there. The tabernacle, a tabernacle, a tent of meeting is what it says. But it's the first day, first month, second year that we're coming out of Egypt. In the previous chapter, we were setting up the priests. Putting up the garments for the ministry, yeah. Anyway, here we're setting up the tabernacle. We're setting up the court. We're getting the anointing oil and all that stuff together, the laver, the altar. Everything's being put together. But this is 8 days prior to this day that we're talking about today. So there is no tabernacle. They have a tent of meeting. The tabernacle has not been set up yet, but it has all the materials have been gathered together. They're ready to go. So today is the 23rd day. Let me show you what Yashar has to say about this, because I think this is very important. Oh, I guess I've gone too far. Let me go. There you go. Here's Yashar. 83, 1 through 4. And in the 12th month, on the 23rd day of the month, Moses took Aaron and his sons, and he dressed them in their garments. This is what we're going to be doing today. And anointed them, and did unto them as Yehovah had commanded him. And Moses brought up all the offerings which Yehovah had that day commanded him. And Moses afterward took Aaron and his sons and said to them, for 7 days you shall remain at the door of the tabernacle, for thus I am commanded. And Moses and his sons did all that Yehovah had commanded them through Moses. And they remained for 7 days at the door of the tabernacle. You know, I've read this so many times. And you see tabernacle, and we have to understand the tabernacle has not been set up yet. This is the tent of meetings, the tent of Moed. This seems to be a tent that was outside the camp where Moses would go to meet with Yehovah. Sometimes the men would see, they look out their camp, their tent doors, and they would see Moses with Yehovah, big pillar of fire. It says the fire stood before Moses. But this is not the Mishkan that we're talking about. This is the tent of meetings. And that confusion goes on. And honestly, even as I was studying today, I was confused until I got to the end and I realized, oh my gosh, this is not the tabernacle that we've been talking about today. This is the tent of Ohel. Ohel Moed, the tent of meetings. Here, (23rd day of the month), on the 8th day, they're going to be in this tent. No, they're going to be outside this tent. See, even as I was reading this, I'm thinking the Mishkan, the court, all the stuff. They're talking about the altar, but they're not talking about the bronze altar. The bronze altar hasn't been set up yet. And so I had to kind of readjust my mind so that we understand what we're talking about. This is the tent that's outside the camp that they're meeting at right now. And you know what? Leviticus is wrong because it calls it the Mishkan. Unless the tent of meeting can be called the Mishkan. I don't know that it can. But we'll take a look at that today. I've got other things that I want to show you, but I think we'll wait until the end to talk about some of those things. So let's continue with where we're at. Oh, I know, I wanted to mention Moses. I don't know why I decided to put this here, but it talks about the name Moses or Moshe, drawing out of the water. Moses was drawn out of the water, if I remember, by Pharaoh's daughter. I forget what her name was. It started with a B. Don't remember right offhand. But, you know what? We are to be brought out of the waters of the world. The governments of men is often referred to as the waters of the world. Drawing out of the waters. That is what makes us, I think, a Hebrew. We're leaving the land of our birth. We're coming out of those waters and we're coming under the jurisdiction of Yehovah. At the end of this process, the sanctification process that's going on today with Aaron and his sons, we're going to set up the tabernacle. And next week, we're going to have our first service. The first service is going to have to do with the service in which Yehovah will appear. It's all designed so that Yehovah will appear. He will inhabit the Mishkan, the meeting tents, a meeting tents, a Mishkan, a meeting tents. That's what we're going to talk about next week. But I think it's interesting that it's on the 8th day. These priests have been living in this tent, are living outside this tent for the 7 days, and on the 8th day, Yehovah is going to appear. Kind of makes me think about the Feast of Tabernacles, Sukkot, and how we have the great 8th day. We're dwelling in tents for 7 days. But on the 8th day, we're not dwelling in the tent anymore. The 8th day is a Sabbath. Oh, there's so much to think about, so much that we need to learn. I'm constantly learning. Sometimes I'm relearning a lot of things too. I mean, there's things that I have notes that I've got here in my eSword that I think, oh yeah, that's so good. I forgot about that. Well, let's talk about the consecration process today. Here it is. Take Aaron and his sons. Remember, this is Yehovah talking to Moses. Here we've gone through the instructions for doing an olah, a mincha, a shalamim, a kata'ah, and a shem. We talked about all the priestly responsibilities and the things that are going to come to the priests, how to do all these things. But we don't even have a mishkan yet. Isn't it so funny? And when we talk about next week, our first service between chapter 8, the 12th month, 23rd day of the 12th month. And next week, when we put up the tabernacle, is the first day of the first month of the second year. It doesn't even talk about the tabernacle going up. It's as though it's not there. Line upon line, precept upon precept. Even though it doesn't talk about it, we know. We know it from Exodus. We know it from Numbers. I think we're going to find some other places where we understand that happening as well. Not Numbers, Leviticus. What we're talking about today and next week. So here it is. Take Aaron and his sons. Moses is going to do that. And the garments, the anointing oil, a bull as a kata'ah, a sin offering. 2 rams. It doesn't say rams. It doesn't say sheep. It says a yil. A yil is a strong chief-like thing, but it comes from the flocks. It's going to be either a goat or a sheep. Now we're going to find out, I think, but not here, that this actually is a sheep. We'll see and watch for that later. How do we know if it's a sheep or a goat? Could it be either? I think it could be. But it does say fat tail, and we know the fat tail is going to be a sheep. We know that because we learned in the kata'ah about the fat that needs to be burned for us if it's a sheep. They gave us instructions for a sheep. They gave us instructions for a goat. The fat tail wasn't in the goat instructions. It was in the sheep instructions. So again, a yil is simply a male from the flock, a chief male. Okay. Then it says a basket of unleavened bread. Well, again, bread. Is it bread? Look at what the word is. Here it is. Matzot. Matzah is bread. Matzot is breads. We're going to find out, and I saw this at the bottom, and I thought, how come it didn't tell us that there was different kinds of breads in this basket? Well, now we know that it doesn't say bread, it says breads. So again, more and deeper understandings. Matzot is the unleavened breads. a basket of the unleavened breads. Then it says, and gather the congregation together at the door of the tabernacle of meetings, at the door of the tent of Ohel. No, the Ohel Moed. The door of the Ohel Moed. They translate it as the tabernacle of meetings, but it really is the tent of meetings. Look what I put. Inside the court. Wrong, wrong, wrong. All the congregation is not going to fit inside the court. How big is the court? 75 by 150 feet. That's not big enough for 600,000 men. No, we're meeting at the tent of Ohel, which is outside the camp, the place where Moses went to meet with Yehovah. There, you could get the congregation to meet. It'd be a big crowd. Like I say, 600,000, that's a bunch of guys. So Moses did as Yehovah commanded him. And the congregation was gathered together at the door of the Ohel Moed, the tent of meetings. No, look at this. This says, oh no, that's Ohel Moed. Okay, Ohel Moed. Said it here. And Moses said to the congregation, this is what Yehovah commanded to be done. Then Moses brought Aaron and his sons and washed them with water. Wash them with water. How did that work? I'm guessing their feet, their hands, perhaps their head. Can't imagine we're doing the whole body. You know, again, I had this picture of this going on inside the court, using the laver, the water from the laver to do it. Wrong, wrong, wrong. And he put on the tunic. He put the tunic on him, girded him with the sash. So let's talk about this. As long as we're doing this, I think I've made this. Yeah, there it is. Here's the tunic. It's the white garment right here that goes underneath. This is the part of the tunic here, the white garment. This is the robe. This is the ephod. This is the sash of the ephod. And then the breastplate. So here it is. Let me just read it. He put on the tunic on him. Talking about Aaron. I made the colors so that they match. Girded him with the sash. He's got a sash. The tunic, the white tunic has a sash underneath the robe. The white tunic and the sash is what the boys are going to wear. They don't wear all the other things that their father's going to wear. Clothed him with the robe. That's the blue part. And put the ephod on him. This is the ephod, the multicolored robe, goes on both sides. With the intricately woven band of the ephod. That's the belt that's going to be on it as well. And with it tied the ephod. It just holds the ephod together. There's two pieces. Without the belt, the back would not be held together with the front. Then he put the breastplate on him. And he put the Urim and the Tumim in the breastplate. Where it goes, I don't know. I think there's a pocket at the top that it probably fits into. Two stones, they look kind of alike. Maybe they're one's white, one's black, but they feel exactly the same. He put on the turban. So there's the turban. Sometimes it's called the mitre. He put the turban on his head. Also on the turban, on its front, he put the golden plates. The holy crown as Yehovah had commanded Moses. Remember, the crown says this, Kodesh la Yehovah. Holiness to Yehovah. The boys don't wear that. Just the high priest wears that. We're done with that. Also, Moses took the anointing oil and anointed, look what it says, anointed the tabernacle and all that's in it. Well, go figure. This says that he anointed, here's the word that they're using for anointed, mishka. The anointed one is called the HaMashiach. You can see where the Mashiach or Mishka comes from, the Mishka oil. And it says anointed the Mishkan. The Mishkan. If what we put together 7 days from now isn't together yet, what's the anointing? He's anointing the Ohel Moed, the tent of meetings. What's in it? Is there anything in it? I mean, I pictured, in my mind when I first read this, I thought, oh, okay, he's going to anoint the altar and all the table and the table of showbread and the lampstand and all that. But we're not talking about that. It hadn't been set up yet. So I had to readjust my whole mind again. Constant readjusting, getting it right. We have to get this right. Yehovah gives us his word, but we have to understand how it all fits together. And that's what I try to do for you guys each week, is give you a deeper understanding of what's going on, who's doing it. Next week, Yehovah is going to appear to all Israel. He's coming to the tent. He's coming there for the first time. We're going to see a pillar of smoke fill that tent. The priest can't even get in. But you know what? There's no Egyptians that are going to see Yehovah appear. There's no Babylonians that are going to see him appear. No Moabites, Edomites, Canaanites that are going to see Yehovah. Only his people, the Israelites. Those men that have separated from the kingdom of their birth, they got circumcised and then ate the Passover. That's Israel's seed. We've got to understand the big picture. We've got to understand how men come to Yehovah. And what makes the priests different? They are being anointed and consecrated to serve in the positions that Yehovah is putting them. They said, Mishkan. He's consecrating the tent of meetings, the Ohel Moed. But they wrote Mishkan and everything in it. Well, I don't even know what it's got in it. The tabernacle will not be set up until the first day, first month, second year, 8 days from right now. Does that blow your mind? They said Mishkan. Was it a mistake? I don't know. They call in the verse that we saw today, Numbers 40. It said the Mishkan, a tent Ohel. Translated the Mishkan, the tent of meeting. So they're using it synonymously, but the Mishkan doesn't exist yet. It's going to be set up next time, 8 days from now. So next Sabbath will be 8 days from now. Let's continue. He sprinkled some of it, the anointing oil, on the altar 7 times. anointing the altar and all its utensils and the laver and its base and to consecrate them. What's he anointing? This is not the bronze altar. Is the bronze altar set up outside the tent of Ohel? No, Ohel Moed? Tent of meetings? I don't know. I don't think so. But I would think that they would have an altar out there. It would make sense that they would have an altar out there. Did they have utensils? Maybe they did. It's very possible they did. But it would be an altar made of stone, like Yehovah told us to make in Exodus 20. Or an altar of dirt. But I would tend to think it would be an altar of stone. Did it have utensils? Could it have a laver? I suppose. Why not? So then it says, do I have a note on that? Let me see what my note says. Now he's consecrating the things outside and inside the court. Wrong. You see how you can take this and totally misunderstand what's actually happening? It's so easy to do. He poured some of the anointing oil on Aaron's head. He's already poured it on the altar. We're going to use that oil again. That's even poured on the altar. He poured some of the anointing oil on Aaron's head and anointed him to consecrate him. Now, we're switching gears and we're going to go to Aaron's sons. Then Moses brought Aaron's sons. Remember, there's 4 of them right now. And put tunics on them. They get the tunics. Gird them with sashes and put the hats, the turbans on their head. White. They also had whitey-tidies made of the same kind of material. They must have already had those on. But he put the tunics, and girded them with their sashes and put the hat on them. And he brought the bull. Remember, we had a bull and 2 rams here at the beginning. He brought the bull. We're on here. And he brought the bull for a kata'ah. No, it says the kata'ah. Kata'ah is actually what it says. Kata'ah. For the kata'ah. For the sin. Then Aaron and his sons laid their hands on the head of the bull for the kata'ah. And Moses, look at this. They're laying their hands on the kata'ah korban offering. It doesn't say korban. It just says the kata'ah. And it says Moses killed it. Oh, isn't that interesting? When there is a offering, whether it's a sin offering or offering, remember we're talking about korban, which is all about drawing near to Yehovah. When it's for the people, it seems to me it was a priest that laid their hands, or no, that the congregation, the heads of the congregation laid their hands on the calf. No, I think it was a bull at that point. And the priest killed it. Now it's for the priests, and Moses is going to kill it. I think that's interesting. Who consecrated Moses? Moses is kind of set apart, isn't he? He has the anointing of Yehovah. I mean, he's got the rod of Elohim for one thing. Picked it out of the garden of Raul's garden, remember? He's got the rod of Elohim. He is the Melchizedek of Yehovah's people, the chief person of Melchizedek's purple, the righteous king, Melchizedek. Moses killed it. And he took the blood and put some on the horns of the altar. The horns of the altar! What's going on here? If the tabernacle wasn't set up, how come we're talking about an altar that has horns? You see how things don't fit together perfectly all the time? We got to deal with this. Put it on the horns of the altar. All around with his finger, and purified the altar. Did they have the altar outside the tent of Moed? The bronze altar, I mean? Put that built the tent around the bronze altar? How do we understand this? He poured the blood on the base of the altar and consecrated it to make a covering for it. See, these are all questions that we have to answer. But usually it's the one who lays their hands on the kata'ah who kills it. Moses made a covering, a kafar. That's what I say. It's not an atonement. It's a covering. It's a kafar. The day of Kippurim is the day of what we call coverings, the day of coverings for the altar. Was this the bronze altar? We need more information, don't we? Then he took all the fat that was on the entrails, the fatty lobe. Remember, we're talking about the bull right now. The fatty lobe attached to the liver. I think the fatty lobes maybe attached to the liver. The two kidneys with their fat. We talked about this in the past. I don't think that we're going to burn the kidneys. I think we're burning the fat that's on the kidneys. And Moses burned them on the altar. But the bull's hide. But the bull, I guess this would be the bull. What parts of the bull are we going to talk about? Its hide, its flesh, its offal, the guts. He burned with fire outside the camp, as Yehovah had commanded Moses. So he just burned the fat for the kata'ah. Normally, the priests get to eat the kata'ah. But not today, because this is for the priests. As Yehovah commanded Moses, we would burn it outside the camp. Then he brought the ram. It says the ram. Well, there's two rams. Which one did he bring? He brought one of the rams. It doesn't say the ram, it says a ram. He brought a ram. There's two of them. And they're not rams, they're ayils. But I think this is where we're going to find out that we actually are talking about sheep because of what it says. Then he brought a ram as an olah. Remember, there is no word for this offering here. That word is simply not there. We always want to remember that. I try to highlight that so we remember not to use it. And Aaron and his sons laid their hands on the head of the ram. It does say ram there, or the ram there. It says the ayil anyway. The ayil is what it says. And Moses killed it. So he killed this one as well. Then he sprinkled the blood all around the altar. And he cut the ram into pieces. And Moses burned the head and the pieces. Remember, this is an olah offering. He burnt the head and the pieces and the fat. And he washed the entrails and the legs in the water. And Moses burned the whole ram on the altar. It was an olah. A sweet, here's what it actually says, a sweet aroma of fire to Yehovah, as Yehovah commanded Moses. What happens to the skin? I think the skin was probably burnt outside the camp. The skin would generally be kept by the priest who burnt the rest of the stuff. The priest would get that particular olah skin, but not in this case. I think it had to be burnt outside the camp. And he brought a second ram. So that was it. We said we had 2 rams, so now here's the second ram. You could say he brought the first ram, but it doesn't say first ram. It just says a ram. He brought a ram, a ayil. He brought the second ayil. Here it is, ayil. Consecration. The consecration, he brought this, it doesn't even say second. It says the ram of the consecration. Or maybe, let's see if it says second. I don't even know if it says second. No, he brought, the added words. Doesn't say second. He brought the consecration ram, is what it says. He brought the consecration ram. The ayil ha-milu. Consecration ram. And Aaron and his sons laid their hands on the head of the ram. And Moses killed it. And he took some of its blood and put it on the tip of Aaron's right ear, on the thumb of his right hand, and on his big toe of his right foot. How strange. What is the significance of that? These are questions we always have to ask. Why does he do that? Right foot, right ear, right thumb. I don't know. Right big toe, not right foot. Big toe of the right foot. Then he brought Aaron's sons, and Moses put some of the blood on the tips of their right ears, on the thumbs of their right hands, and on their big toes, on their big toes of their right feet. And Moses sprinkled the blood all around the altar. Now there's blood and there is anointing oil on the altar. Actually, there's blood from the 2 animals, 3 animals. And he took the fat. Look what it says. And the fat tail. And the fat tail. What does this tell us? This tells us right here that this was a ram and not a goat. He took the fat and the fat tail. The fat tail. All the fat on the entrails, the fatty lobe on the liver, the 2 kidneys and their fat, and the right thigh. That's interesting too. It took adding that to it. The right thigh, do I have that on here? Maybe I have it down below. And the right thigh. So the right thigh is being singled out here. When you bring, this was for a consecration offering. We haven't talked about a consecration offering in the past. We don't do this a lot. But for the sin offering, no, maybe it's not the sin offering. The shalamim, the right thigh is going to go to the priest who killed it. In this case, Moses is killing it. Now look what it says. And from the basket of unleavened breads. Let's see if it has unleavened breads here too. Ha-matzot. The matzot, the O-T, the oat on the end of that. Unleavened breads. Yeah, matzot. There it is right there. Matzot. That is plural. That's a feminine plural. And the breads. You know what? Since I grabbed that, we checked it. Let's add it to our notes so we have it for a rainy day. And back. Breads. Where are we? Here we are. Breads. Add the S to that. That was before Yehovah. He took 1 unleavened cake, That's why I say it's breads. He took one unleavened cake, a cake of bread, a cake of anointed bread, and a wafer, and put them on the fat on the right thigh. Now here's the pile of fat, the right thigh, and he's going to put the wafer on the right thigh, and the other cake, the cake of bread. It says a cake of bread. I wonder if it's more than one. I don't know if it's going to tell me that. Cake, wafer. Hala, kala, hala. And it looks like a cake of unleavened bread. It's all its size. So yeah, there's at least two breads in the basket on the right thigh. And it says, and he put all these, the fats, the right thigh, with the cake and the wafer in Aaron's hands and in the hands of his son's hands, and waved them as a wave before Yehovah. They have wave offering. It's not. I use, rather than say wave them as a wave them as a, it's two different words. This is nuf. This is the waving is a korban. I guess you could call it a korban, drawing near. It's translated as offering. That's a good translation for korban, but it doesn't say korban. Doesn't say that. So, in order to just help us to understand that we're talking about two different words, I use rock them to and fro rather than wave, because I just want to make you understand that we're talking about two different words. I think they're probably related. One is nuf, the waving, and then the actual doing of it is the tenufah. So nuf and tenufah. They're obviously related to one another. I said normally the priest eats the wave portion. Yeah, but this case, it's for the priests, and Moses is doing it. But not this time, because it's part of the consecration for them. I think Moses is actually going to eat this. Let's find out. Then Moses took them from their hands and burned them, smoked them. It's about raising up, I think, the smoke that's going on. Smoked them on the Olah altar as a consecration, a sweet aroma. It is a fire to Yehovah. I'm trying to help you understand what it says. They have a lot of extra words in here that we need to understand it more definitively. I don't like added words. I don't like extra thus. I don't like the offerings. It doesn't say offerings. Is it a consecration offering? I think it's it's certainly a consecration korban. It's about drawing near. It's about being consecrated to Yehovah. This was an offering. This was an offering made by fire to Yehovah. Offering made by fire. See, here's offering. Let's see what they have for offering. It was an offering. An offering. No, it says a fire. It was a fire to Yehovah. A fire. It is a fire to Yehovah. That's what it says. Offering isn't there. So with that in mind, let's correct our it says a fire. to Yehovah. It was a fire to Yehovah. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. And Moses took the breast. So here's a breast. We use the breast and the thigh in the consecration that we're doing today. And Moses took the breast and waved it as a, whether it is, again, saying exactly the same thing that we saw before, a nuf to a nuf with them as a tenufah before Yehovah. It was Moses's part of the ram of the consecration. Normally, the tenufah, see, that looks like the thigh was burned up with the fat, or I guess they said it burned it up with the fat. So the thigh was burned up with the fat. That would normally go to the priest who did it. But the priests get the breast of most offerings. And in this case, Moses got it. Moses took the breast and waved it as a wave offering before Yehovah. It was Moses' part of the consecration ram, as Yehovah commanded Moses. And Moses took some of the anointing oil. Look at this. Moses took some of the anointing oil and some of the blood, which was on the altar. It's still fresh enough to splatter. The anointing oil, the meshach oil that's on the altar, and the blood, and sprinkled it on Aaron and on his garments. Can you imagine him wiping his hand on that? And sprinkle it on Aaron and his garments, on his sons, and on the garments of the sons with him. And he consecrated Aaron, his garments, his sons, and the garments of his sons with him. And Moses said to Aaron and his sons, boil the flesh. Look at this. Moses was the one who waved it, nuf, the tenufah, waved it before Yehovah at the door of the tent of Ohel. Again, tent of Ohel. And eat it. So when he's telling them to boil it at the door of the tent of Ohel and eat it. Eat it there with the bread that is in the basket of the breads that are in the basket of the consecration. Sorry, I got to keep my notes accurate. That is in the basket of consecration, as I commanded, saying, Aaron and his sons shall eat it. But now, here's the answer to what we asked last week. What remains of the flesh and the breads you shall burn with fire? And you shall not go outside. You shall burn with fire. We're not burning them on the altar. Remember, we asked, well, what about the breads? We're supposed to eat them in the holy place, which is in the court. We don't have a court right now. But where do we burn the extra? Because they can't eat all the food that are brought to them. There's got to be things that are left over. And this tells us we're going to burn them, and I think we're burning them outside the camp. We're not burning them on the altar. He didn't say burn them on the altar. He just said burn them. So I think it has to be done outside the camp. What remains of the flesh, this is the answer to the question we had last week. The flesh that that the priest can't eat is burned with fire, but not on the altar. It says, and you shall go outside. You shall not go outside. Now look at this. You shall not go outside. Does it say outside? Because remember, we're talking about the tent of Ohel. You shall not go outside the tent of Ohel. Does that mean they're going to be in the tent of Ohel for the 7 days? Let's look at it. You shall not go. It says not. Sounds like they're going to be in the tent for 7 days. Well, obviously, you're not going to potty in the tent, so you got to leave the tent sometimes. How does that work for 7 days? Let's see what Yasher had to say about that, too. Let's go back. Here's what the verse actually says. I guess I've got some notes for that, too. You shall not go outside the door of the tent of Ohel for 7 days until, I say the tent of Ohel. It's actually the Ohel Moed, the tent of meetings. I'm saying that wrong a lot today. I apologize for that. Until the day of your consecration are ended. The days of your consecration are ended. For 7 days, he shall consecrate you. What else is happening during these 7 days? It seems like there's some responsibilities that they should have for these 7 days. Well, here's some notes that I picked out here. I put, this is the consecration. This is the same consecration that's spoken of in Leviticus 8. I think I wrote this from a note from Leviticus, or from Exodus 29. So they remained in the court 7 days. It came to pass on the 8th day that Moses called Aaron and his sons and the elders of Israel. Okay, this is going to be what we're going to talk about next week. And it says, on the first day of the first month, you are to set up the tabernacle. So this is from the 23rd day to the 30th day. Remember, there's 30 days maximum in Yehovah's calendar. On the 8th day is going to be the first day of the first month of the second year. On the first day of the first month, you are to set up the Mishkan, the Ohel Moed. Put in the ark of the testimony and conceal the ark with a curtain. It goes on from there. 40 verse 8 says, set up the courtyard all the way around. This is all happening on the first day of the first month of the second year. But yet we're talking about an altar that seems to be the altar that we're going to use, the bronze altar. Set up the courtyard all the way around and hang up the screen for the entrance of the courtyard. So I put, why 7 days? Could this be a shadow picture of 7,000 years that men dwell on earth in their tents? Temporary dwelling place. Sukkah is the word that they use there, that we're supposed to dwell in. Israel's seed dwells in it, not the Ger, not the Egyptians, not the Babylonians, not the Americans, or the U.S. citizens. Many men are being consecrated these days. Many men are being consecrated during these days, 7,000 years. Are we in a consecration process? Should we be in a consecration process? Maybe I should say. Remember, it's Israel's seed that we're talking about, not men in general. All right. Got a few more verses. as he has done this day, so Yehovah has commanded to do, to make a covering for you. Again, he's talking about Israel, are the priests. Therefore, you shall stay at the door. See, here it says, it doesn't say, it says at the door of the tent of meetings. What does it say here? Does it say at the door of the, Ohel Moed? No, I take it back. That's not the same verse. There's 40. We were talking about the Mishkan being a Mishkan, a meeting tent. The Mishkan is the meeting tent. But this is not the Mishkan. This is the meeting tent that we're talking about right now. Let's see if it says. What does it say? What does it say? 7 days. Is this the right verse? That's a meeting. Ohel Moed. Ohel. Here it is. Ohel Moed. Ohel Moed. It doesn't say Mishkan. It says Ohel Moed. This is a tent that's outside. I just find that really interesting. Again, they translate it as the tent of meeting. The tabernacle of meeting is the tent of meeting. So it says, you shall stay at. They put at. That makes more sense, doesn't it? Stay by the door of the tent of meeting. Seems like that's not. Why does it say meeting day? Oh, day and night for 7 days. 7 days. It's going to take us from the 23rd to the 30th. And keep the charge. They say charge. The word here is keep Yehovah's watch, which I think, that's really interesting. Keep Yehovah's watch. Are they watching for Yehovah? It gets translated a lot as commandments. Here they got century observance. But if we understand that at the end of these 7 days, that Yehovah is going to come in a cloud of smoke and settle among his people. Now, are they watching for Yehovah? I wonder. Keep a watch. Keep Yehovah's watch. I put Yehovah speaking to Moses on the 23rd day of the 12th month of the first year after we came out of Egypt. The priests are beginning their sanctification process today. Then Yehovah spoke to Moses, saying, on the first day of the first month, you shall set up a tabernacle, the Mishkan, Ohel Moed, the meeting tent. And it came to pass on the first day of the second year, on the first day of the month, that the tabernacle was raised up. Tabernacle hasn't been raised up yet. There's more for us to understand. So Aaron and his sons did all the things that Yehovah commanded by the hand of Moses. By the hand of Moses. Isn't that funny? By the hand of Moses. I thought the hand of Moses talked to them by the had all the things that Yehovah had commanded by the hand of Moses. It says hand. Here's Yod. Oh, you really can't see it here. I'll do this. This is 327. This is 327. Here's 327. I put an H in front of it. Oh, I guess I got to be capital H. Then I can read it. And there is Yod. Yad. It's a Yod Dalet. Here, look what it says. This is ancient Hebrew lexicon of the Bible. It says throw, hand, concrete is hand. Thanks. The picture of the Yod is a picture of a hand. And the Dalet is a picture of the Yod Dalet. There it is. Yod, and Dalet. And the dalet is a picture of a door that allows movement in and out of the tent. It's kind of like they're guarding the door. Combine these mean hand moves. The hand is the part of the body that enables a man to perform many works. By Moses' hand. By Moses' hand. Okay. So Aaron and his sons did all the things that Yehovah had commanded by the hand of Moses, by Moses' hand. Next week, as I said, we are going to have the service. I put the service in which Yehovah will appear. This is going to be the very first service that we're going to do in the new tabernacle, the new Mishkan, the Ohel Moed, the tent of meetings, the new Ohel, the new tent of meetings, as opposed to the one that we've been at today, which has some kind of an altar underneath or in front of it. I don't even know how that works. Well, it's all very interesting. Line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little. We got to dig for the truth. Here is the 12th month. We read this today. It was on the 12th month that they told him to be in tent. But look what it says here on the 8th day. Remember, we were going to dwell for 7 days. And on the 8th day, being the first day of the first month. See, this is why I love Yasher. It gives us information that we would otherwise miss or not see as easily. On the 8th day, being the first day of the first month, in the second year from the Israelites' departure from Egypt. Israelites, remember they're Israelites because they ate the Passover and then they got to leave Egypt. Moses erected the sanctuary, and Moses put up all the furniture of the tabernacle and all the furniture of the sanctuary, and he did all that Yehovah commanded him. And Moses called to Aaron and his sons, and they brought the olah and the kata'ah for themselves and Israel's seed, as Yehovah had commanded Moses on that day, which is what we're going to see in Leviticus 10. The two sons of Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, took strange fire and brought it before Yehovah. And they got fried by Yehovah for doing things that they weren't supposed to do. Well, it's all very, very interesting. If you love Yehovah's word anyway, it's really interesting. If you don't, maybe it's not so interesting to you. But for me, I find it fascinating. You guys, thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll see you next time. Bye now.